Hey everyone, welcome back to That Bitch Energy, the podcast. I'm your host, Bianca, and I really like to make spirituality fun, modern, and relatable. We are here to tap into our grounded, confident selves and really tune in to That Bitch Energy, hence the title of this podcast. So without further ado, let's get into this next one. Welcome back to another episode of That Bitch Energy, the podcast. This is a really, really legendary episode for me. I am so excited. This is my first ever guest to have on the show, and I'm so excited for you all to meet her. Today, we have Didi. Didi is a mindset and embodiment coach who is passionate about all things alcohol-free and founder of coaching business Sober Chapters. Didi also has a podcast of her own called the Sober Chapters Podcast. So go and check it out. It's really good. And her podcast has a whopping 5-star review rating. And without further ado, welcome Didi to the podcast. All right, Didi, welcome to That Bitch Energy, the podcast. What is up? How are you?
I'm good, Bianca. So good. So good to finally chat with you this morning as well. I'm so looking forward to catching up. I say this morning, it's probably evening for you because I'm in Australia, of course.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I was so excited to have you on. I follow you. I am so inspired by your work. And I'm just grateful that we can be here together and that we have crossed paths, which I think is so divine and perfect and meant to be. So thank you for coming on.
For sure. Thank you.
And I have a couple questions. I wrote them down because this is my first ever guest on my podcast. So thank you for being my first.
Yay. Yay. So
Yes.
I feel honored. I
So,
love that. Yeah.
oh yes, and it was perfect that it's you. And I wanted to ask, what inspired you to start your sober journey? And also, how has becoming alcohol free changed the way you experience yourself?
Okay. All right. Now, I will try and keep it nice and concise for you because there's so much to it. It's been such a journey. It's been such a journey. So I'll answer the first bit first in terms of what inspired me. Do you know what? I don't actually know what like the initial inspiration was. I think that I was kind of like, as a bit of a background, I was kind of like born into a boozy family back in the UK. I was a party girl, quickly adopted that role, parted through my teens and my 20s. Never really thought it presented much of a problem, but I look back now and I'm like, wow, like I was wild and I can't actually
Mm.
believe like what I used to do to like my poor body, like I would just drink a lot like every weekend, like all through uni and stuff. And then initially, actually, I started taking breaks from alcohol. Like as I got a little bit older, like I became more kind of insecure. I think I was always hiding insecurities, actually, perhaps around the way that I looked, but I think they came out more like later on. And I was really into my fitness. And I kind of noticed that, like, I would put on weight or what have you if I wasn't like, eating healthy and like when I was going out and drinking and partying at the weekends. And I had a boyfriend at the time who was working away. At times he'd be away for like 4, 5, 6 weeks. And then he'd come back for the same amount of time. So I used to take breaks back then. And I
Mhm.
always just felt so good when I didn't drink. Like I loved it. It was always, such a great thing. Like every aspect would improve. But I think back then, before I knew everything that I knew now, it was much more around like the aesthetic side of it. And I was focusing more on like that, how I looked, and everyone would comment on the sober glow and, all of that kind of stuff. I never
Totally.
really thought about giving up long term, because I was like, I'm not dependent on it. You know, I'm just a party girl. It's fun. It's such a big part of my life. Like my family, my friends, like everyone drinks. But then it wasn't until like probably a few, like in my early 30s, when a lot of stuff changed for me. And my hangovers were horrific. They became awful. And at 32, I found myself newly single. I had moved to the other side of the world, and I was trying to make new friends, and naturally was, you know, drinking to do that, you know, going out socializing. We feel like we need alcohol to connect, right? And but the next day, like I would just beat myself up so badly. Like it was
Mm.
horrible. And it started to have like a really negative impact on my, like my mental health, I guess. But that wasn't who I truly was. Like I was really naturally quite a bubbly, upbeat, positive person. And then it would just take so much away from me. Like, and I was in that kind of like cycle. And
Mhm.
so I suppose I was sober curious for years, is the point that I'm getting to. But the biggest thing for me was that I started to see a lot of guidance. So every time I stopped drinking, particularly from that age of 32, where I was starting to get into like the personal and spiritual growth world, I was looking for answers. I was basically what I now know at the start of my spiritual awakening. And I was starting to see a lot of like signs and synchronicities, but I noticed that those signs and synchronicities were happening a lot more when I wasn't drinking alcohol. And I was like, oh, there's something in this. And I talk a lot about, there's a number that I see all the time. It's now in my branding, but it's a number, it's the number 69 of all numbers. And I would see it everywhere, right? And
Mm.
it wasn't for that number, I don't reckon I would have given up alcohol. I don't think I would have necessarily created my business, because it's always been a kind of like a guidance, like a knowing that I'm protected, that I'm being looked after, that I'm on the right path. And it's been beautiful. And so I guess really, in answer to your question, like the true inspiration came from the fact that I knew that alcohol was stunting my spiritual growth, and it was disconnecting me from who I truly was. And so there's so much more I could talk about on that, and I'm sure we'll dive into more today. But I hope that gives you a little bit of an overview.
Yes. Wow, it's wild how I feel like I can connect to so many points in your story. Um, and I'm sure you might see that with your clients and the people you work with and coach.
Yeah,
Um, because I can relate to normally being a bubbly, fun person, and then you drink some alcohol and turn into not yourself necessarily, like a different version of yourself that maybe isn't the highest vibration or frequency that we would like to give off. And I
yeah,
relate with that so much. And I also relate with how you said your family likes to drink and friends. And it's very, I mean, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Literally everywhere I look when it comes to movies, shows, advertisements, socializing, it's all based around alcohol. Going to dinner, it's like the first thing they want to offer is alcohol. And um, yeah, it's just I can relate with your story. So I appreciate you sharing with everyone, with me, with us here,
yeah, cool.
um, your journey. So I appreciate that. And it's wild how much I was like, oh, yes, I get it. I'm with
Yeah,
you. Um,
yeah. Well,
yeah.
that's the thing. I mean, because you shared with me that you're also alcohol free, and there's something in that, Bianca. Like I promise
Mm.
you, like you will. You've probably, I'm sure, already found it for yourself, and it would be interesting for your listeners to hear that. Like you really do, you kind of end up attracting like-minded souls. There's something in it because of the fact that you are operating at such a higher frequency, and also the fact that you are coming back to who you truly are. So,
Mhm.
authenticity is also such a high frequency, and that's the whole message that I have, is that alcohol takes you away from who you truly are. It fuels those patterns, that conditioning, like all the pain, shame, programming that we've had from our younger years, like alcohol kind of keeps us stuck in that side of things. And so, when you remove it and you do the work and the inner work, and I know you've been doing all of that with everything the journey you've been on, like it's kind of like it helps to peel back the layers so much easier and bring us back to who we truly are. And that's where the doors open and the opportunities come in. And, you're more in your flow in general. And, don't get me wrong, like the fear and the darkness and those patterns will try and come back in, but you just have so much more awareness, and awareness is the power, because then you can like not fall back,
Yes.
you know?
Yes, it's truly like a wall, a block. And I saw on one of your posts how you mentioned how it was on another question, but I'm gonna bring it up. It was like I can't find it, but it was like it messes with the, was it the prefrontal cortex that it messes with? I saw
Yeah.
that on your Instagram and I wanted to write that down because I mean that is impairing decision making, self control, and even like, well, yeah, decision making in general.
Yeah. Yeah, it
I feel
does.
like that's so real for me. And when I would drink, I would just be wild. I didn't mention, but I used to get really angry when I was a drinker, when I was drinking, and then the next day be depressed. So my decision, it was like I would be depressed because I knew I wasn't aligning with who I wanted to be that night before. And it
Yeah.
also is a depressant as well. And I think, because I have addiction in my family, it's like very, the addictive personality in me, I guess, is like was so strong. And I'm just so glad to, I don't know, that I finally came to the realization that it's not helping me and that I do have a choice.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
I mean, the choice, like I didn't think there was a choice, and all of a sudden I was like, wait, I can choose to quit
Yeah.
after being like sober for like a couple, I don't know, I think it was like 3 weeks, and I was like, I can choose to never do that.
Hmm.
And then I just quit.
I think that's
So
amazing. Yeah, like huge self-awareness, like, so commendable that you decided to take that, decision upon yourself, and go against societal norms as
mhm.
well, right? It takes a lot of courage and a lot of strength. But I really believe, that's really you showing up for yourself in such a powerful way. And the universe rewards us for that, right? Like, so it does, again, open a lot of doors when you make those brave decisions, for sure. But yeah, like the
Thank you.
rational thinking side of it as well. Like it's because when you touched on that, then when you said you'd get angry and do things when you were drunk, like if you think about it, like alcohol, like we're always trying to create space between like our activations, I suppose, and our reactions. And
Hmm.
when we drink, it's really hard to create that space between that. And that's where people can have like say things impulsively or act impulsively or what have you. And again, fueling those patterns rather than it being what you would truly do, which is why the next day you then end up so conflicted and you end up just beating yourself up, and all these different parts come into play, and it's horrible. It's a lot of noise. Like life's hard enough, right? Like why make it harder?
Yes. Yes, preach it. That's like mic drop. Psh. Life is already hard. And alcohol, excuse me, is just making it, it's giving an extra like challenge that you can actually choose to like get out of the way.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
so after I wrote down with the prefrontal cortex, I said, I wrote down, let's see here. How do you feel when you did start, when you went sober? Um, what did you notice was clear to you? Like what, like were decisions easier to make that aligned with your vision? Um, like did you notice anything different when you quit compared to before?
Yeah, I think. well, every time I quit, because that's the thing, like it's sometimes hard to describe my journey because I took so
Mm,
many breaks. Like that's why I think it's
okay.
incredible that you did 3 weeks and then you went sober, because I did a lot of breaks and
Mm,
got so much benefit from it. Like every single time
mhm,
I would get so much clearer. I
mm,
would stick to my routines and my mindfulness routines, my meditations, my journaling, because I was on such a path of sort of like deep inner work and personal and spiritual growth. And it was
mhm,
crazy that I was still flirting with alcohol and I was still going in and out of alcohol. So from 32 until 38, when I did my sober chapter, like I was in and out of like mindful drinking, taking breaks, and then I always call it like the seesaw effect. Like I'd balance it for a while and be like,
mhm,
yeah, I can do this. This is cool. And then I'd have like a massive night out because I'd been single all that time too, right? So when you're single and you don't have any accountability necessarily, like I would just, because I was a fun drunk. Like I could stay out and party late. So I'd often do that more than, I wanted to. And then it would be like such a detrimental impact on me the next
yeah,
day. And I always felt like I was going backwards. So yeah, those 6 years I was doing that. And then the whole concept was like, because my intuition and my higher self was saying to me, like screaming at me, as well as the
mm,
universal signs that I was seeing to give up. But I still had to negotiate with my ego, with that part of me that didn't want to let it go. And that's what I
yeah,
negotiated to do a chapter, which is the 22 months that I did until I was 40. But what was different about
wow,
that was that, like, I knew it was it felt so freeing, Bianca, because I was like, I have 22 months, this sober chapter of absolute like freedom to go all in on myself, go all in on the inner work, go all in on upskilling, go all in on what I say now is reinventing my future, because I could see 40 on
mhm,
the horizon. And I was like, I don't want to keep going backwards and forwards and staying
mm,
stuck in patterns. Like I want to, give my best, like myself, the best chance of attracting in, an incredible life partner. I want to become, the version of myself that I always envisaged I would be, and just
mhm,
really. So I think, in answer to your question, I just had more like determination in that time,
mm,
and more clarity, more consistency with everything, like really threw myself into, all like the coaching and all the different cohorts and just like all the growth stuff, and just made so many inroads from doing that, because you just don't have the distraction and the extra noise of the drinking and the hangovers holding you back, essentially.
absolutely. Oh my goodness, yes, I can relate with what a lot that you said there too. I feel like when I quit, I had gotten so wasted the last time that I quit, or before I quit, and it was just awful and gross and disgusting in the way that I felt. I don't think I really did anything gross or disgusting. It's just like I was so depleted. I was like, do you know? I mean, I'm sure you know the hangover feeling. It's just like it just feels like bleh. I don't know. That's how I explain it. It's
Yeah.
bleh.
Yeah.
And my I had met other sober individuals or sober curious people in my life before this moment who
Mhm.
gave me the door open to see the light of it is possible to have fun, to make friends, to have a fulfilling life without alcohol, which I didn't see that in anyone before.
Mhm.
So I can relate that it helped me align on my path and get like clear clarity of where I want to go and the decisions I need to make to get there. Um and as you said earlier, like fears and insecurities do still come,
Yeah.
but the alcohol kind of made me put it on the back burner instead of look at it directly. Like
Yeah.
my fears, oh, I'll just like drink a little bit, hang out, not even think about it, whatever. And
Yeah.
with alcohol. And so I feel like you said, your ego was like, I don't want to quit fully. Like, I don't need to. is probably what our ego might tell us, but it's because of fear of looking at the demons or whatever it is, really
Mhm.
sitting with it. So I
Mhm.
love how you said that the fears still come up and that you were able to just conquer your goals and you saw 40 coming. And I think age and like big milestones in our lives like really do open up portals for us. Like you were saying, like on your Instagram, you said from 38 to 40, you were like, that's like the what that was your like chapter. That was your goal of the was it 22 months you said?
Yeah, 22 months. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And how long is it now?
So the chapter should have ended in April, which would have been the 22 months. And now, do you know what? I didn't even keep track properly, but I think it's like coming up to
Yes.
2.5 years. 2.5 years. I gave,
Wow.
it's funny, another big part of my story. I gave up on 4th of July, which like I didn't plan that, right? And that's like one of the biggest fights for you guys. And it's so wild, Bianca, because I gave up on the 4th of July, not intentionally. And then like there's just been one American connection after the other. Like it's wild. It's there's been all this calling over there. I've been to America 4 times during my sober chapter. I've made incredible connections in the alcohol free space with so many amazing women in America. I like my business coach is in America. I have a mentor, all to do with like the feminine embodiment work that I'm just so passionate about, like over there as well. And it's taken me on this like whole journey to do with that. Yeah. So it's been like 2.5 years, but there were so many things that you were saying then. And I was like, oh my gosh, like there's so much that I could share. I think one that came to mind, I was like, yeah, is like the the ability it gives us to sit with those uncomfortable feelings, right?
Mm,
And freedom is like one of my biggest values. And I always thought that freedom externally in our external world, like financial freedom, like freedom to travel, like all of that was, my goal and still is and incredible. But if you don't have freedom in your internal world, none of
mm,
that is relevant, right? And one of the biggest gifts that being alcohol free has given me is that emotional freedom, because I can literally sit with all of my emotions now and go through them and recognize the patterns and kind of predict them and not fall into it, like not fall into it to a state of complete dysregulation. Like, of course, I'll still get dysregulated, but I'm able definitely to sit with those emotions much more and not be afraid of them. And when you're not afraid of the feelings and the darkness and all of that, like it just gives you so much power. So yeah,
mhm.
and that's been huge. And it sounds like you've experienced so much of that too, which is just, yeah, it's gorgeous. Hey.
Thank you. And I think we did a similar thing, and mine was very unintentional. Well, maybe it was intentional, but I wasn't. I didn't realize I was doing this as
Mhm.
much as maybe you said I'm going to do a 22-month. I'm planning this. I and maybe I was subconsciously doing this, but
Mhm.
I actually quit drinking at 28 and it has been 2 years and I turned 30. So I feel like it's interesting that you said 38 to 40. I'm so like, it's so wild that they're so similar. But anyway, I don't know if it's because I saw 30 coming and I was like, this is going to be a new chapter for me. Like,
Mhm.
and yours is called Sober Chapters. I love it. And yeah, I just think it's crazy how we quit in similar, like we were looking forward to a new decade of life. And
Mm, definitely.
I mean, and yeah, I just think that's incredible. And I was like, when I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so weird. I didn't mean for mine to be the same.
I was just going to say, sorry to interrupt you, there's never any coincidences, right? This is what I mean. Like, you're
Yeah.
always like drawn to those synchronicities and like you see so much more of them, like when you're alcohol free
Yes.
too. But I think you would have been, yeah, I like this, the fact that you say you didn't plan it. and that perhaps subconsciously, I would say absolutely subconsciously, you know, your higher
Mhm.
self
Yeah.
in the driver's seat, right? And made that decision,
Mhm.
which is incredible,
Yeah.
Bianca, because I know not to be too hard on myself and regret that I didn't do it earlier, because I wouldn't have the journey and I wouldn't be able to help people with what I've been through now, right? But I look at you and I hear you say you get
Yes.
20 and I'm like, wow, 28, sorry, wow, like you, gosh, you have got like so many incredible like years of having this sobriety superpower ahead of you. Like I just love it. I
Mhm.
love that because it really is a superpower. And especially with the work that you're doing and you know those that you're trying to help, like it's just incredible. And I
Mhm.
think that, you know, it's something, yeah, it's something to be really proud of. It's really inspirational and it's amazing because, you know, people think, I think perhaps because I'm, you know, like a decade older, perhaps people a decade younger and perhaps some of your followers like might be worried that they can't have the fun and they can't like do all the things and all of that. And like I just want to say, like, I'm still a party girl. Like I'm still wild. I'm probably wilder now, but like in a wild, because I'm not trying to hold myself back, because I was always
Yeah.
worried about the next day. And I think like it takes practice, but it's all part of the process. Like if you keep facing your fears and taking baby steps outside of your comfort zone and going and doing things that light you up with the right people and the right energy. So for example, I always talk about the dancing element. Like
Mm.
I went to Ibiza on my 40th birthday, or like the weekend before my 40th birthday, with all my girlfriends, alcohol free. It's like a renowned party island. And I went and I danced my little socks off and I was so naturally high. And so I guess why I'm saying this is to like any of your listeners that are thinking, yeah, but I like can't go and have fun. I want to still do this. You will get to a point, and again, this like links in with the freedom element. You'll get to a point where you can do all of that and more alcohol free, and that again is freedom, because you don't have the horrible aftermath or the worry the next day. You can
Yes.
fit more in because you don't have to factor in hangovers into your schedule. You're like, yeah, I can go to that party or I can go there and I can maybe even go to 2 or 3 in a night because I can drive, and like whatever it might be, if you want to, of course. But it once you get the hang of it all and you can embrace it all and just literally rewire your neural pathways as well, and just really and also
Absolutely.
it enables you to get really into your body and to really like embrace all of that and have that deep connection when you're dancing as well, which is awesome. Okay. I get excited. Sorry.
I love no, I love everything you just said. I was like, yes, yes, yes. I agree with when you're out, there's like a freedom to not and like I will get like zero alcohol beer or a Coke or a Sprite or whatever and make it look cute. Um because at this I mean in the beginning I needed to do that. Like it was like a must. Now I could just water and it's fine. But there's a freedom to choosing me, and I'm not having to sacrifice going out with friends and honestly dancing while sober is another form of connecting to self
Yeah.
deeply. And I've always danced like since I was young,
Mhm.
and I kind of at a point got shy. I don't know, there was a fear,
Mhm.
and being sober makes you completely face that fear, like kind of like we were saying earlier, is like there's emotional things that come up that you might go drink, and dancing in front of others was one of those things for me, like
Yeah.
really dancing. I don't mean like looking sexy, looking, which you can do that and be free too, but my definition of freedom while is moving my body however the hell I want. And if it's
Mhm.
funny or if it's sexy, all of it. All of it. I didn't have, for a minute there, I was needing alcohol to get to that point. And so we can still party and make it a spiritual fucking experience at the same time,
Mhm.
with, or I would say without alcohol, but or maybe if you're on sober curiosity and you're wanting to just try one drink for the night and then go to water or Coke or whatever you need to do. I think even just starting there is like a whole
Yeah.
step, like a big step.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I just got so many goosebumps. Don't let me forget everything that I want to say. There's two things I want to respond to. Firstly, I want to respond to when you said about having to have the Coke and all of that, and now you just have water. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was, yeah, my experience of when I used to like be really confident when I was young and then losing that along the way.
Mhm.
So firstly, when I first started going like properly alcohol free, when I like decided on the chapter, I was back in England in the UK. I was there working my Australian job for a few months and was going to like weddings and hen dos and stuff like that. And I was doing it all alcohol free. And it was a lot of my good old friends. So that was great. But I went all in on like the mocktails, like all the food. Like I had to do all of that to start with because you are searching for something outside of yourself still. Like you're
Mhm.
still kind of like a little bit awkward and like fumbling through it a bit. And so you kind of just embrace like all those other things and kind of need the treats and all of that. But now and something that I always kind of help my clients with is having a fancy glass and
Mhm.
having, for me, it's like a wine glass with sparkling water and ice and lemon. Like I have that
Yes.
everywhere I go now. So it, fits in if I'm trying to do like a healthy eating plan, like I can have that. It's not full of sugar. And I actually love it now. Like I never thought I would love sparkling water, but I actually do. Like it's great. I'm like, and then sometimes I'll buy a bottle of like the San Pellegrini and I'll just take a bottle around to my friend's house or I'll take a bottle to a barbecue or and a wine glass. That's my thing. So that's really cool. And it's interesting that you've had a similar experience where you've like weaned yourself off needing all that stuff. And again, that just shows, right, with repetition and experience. And then I think because you've come back to self so much and we've both not needed to like search for that extra stuff outside of ourselves, like it means that you're more grounded. You don't need to have all the extra bits and pieces. Um, so that makes it easy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yes.
that was the first thing. And then the next thing was I got goosebumps when you said about how you were like a dancer when you were young, and then you kind of got the fear somewhere along the way. And now by facing your fears, you've built up that true, authentic confidence, right? Which no one can take that away from you. And it's so evident. Like in your Instagram and everything you're doing, like it's gorgeous. And I think how incredible that you had that intuition to stop drinking and then like the path that it's taken you on and like how much growth and how much like you're comfortable being fully seen and expressing yourself online. Like being sober will have had such an impact on that journey. It's so good. And what I learned was when I was young, right? So I'm the youngest of four sisters, and I was like really wild and carefree and really confident. And I did a lot of like dancing and performing arts and poetry in front of my parents' friends at dinner parties and things like this. And I was so confident. And
Mhm.
somewhere along the lines, because I got introduced to alcohol really young, I reckon, so I got given a taste of champagne, like a little glass of champagne when I was like 8 years old, which is wild. So it was kind of the conditioning there of it being this beautiful, glamorous thing was from a very young age. And then I think I was always trying to keep up with my sisters. And I think I was probably drinking like at 12, to be honest, like at
Mhm.
the weekends, like discos and things like that. I'm pretty sure I was getting my hands on it, maybe 12, 13, 14. And long story short, I don't know whether it was a combination of a bit of bullying, like hormones going into teenage years, or whatever it might be. And I've tried to really look at it with a fine tooth comb. I don't know what the pivotal moment was, but I lost my true confidence. And I started using alcohol, like unknowingly, I was using alcohol to mask insecurities that were coming up. And it suddenly it made me invincible. Like it gave
Yeah.
me like false confidence, but it gave me like a bravado that I now know was keeping me stuck in patterns with men as well. And, this whole new thing was going on. And like I said at the very beginning of this podcast, like I didn't really know at the time it was presenting that many problems. I kind of was just in it and I was just rolling with life. And because everyone around me drank, I didn't really kind of think about it. But it wasn't until like I started stripping the alcohol away and realizing just quite how insecure I was without it. And no one would have ever known that. And it's been a journey of being seen on Instagram, building my business. Like I said to you earlier, like only just over a year ago, I struggled to do like podcasts and things like that. And now I have my own, and and then the dancing thing, I'll dance in so many situations now. And I guess, yeah, what I'm saying is it's like it's kind of stripped me of all what I thought was my true confidence, but it was false confidence. And it's helped me regain and come back to who I was as a little girl. And I feel like I was always meant to do public speaking. I was always meant to dance, but I lost her and I lost that true authentic.
Mm.
And it's back, and it's amazing. It's an amazing journey. So thank you for letting me share all of that.
I'm so glad you found her again, and or re visited her, because we can bury and never look at her and hear her and be her. I mean, I feel like life is about healing that inner child and hearing her, and or him, whoever, um, healing the inner child, listening, and really just doing what they didn't get to. And I feel like that's a need for everyone, to get that inner child out and love them and give them the care they didn't that. And it's not that that parents were awful. I feel like no parent is perfect. I don't care how perfect people might have told you. I think that there's always room for growth, and there's always room to reparent our inner child,
Mhm.
um, because we all have insecurities, and we are told to be quiet or sit down, or you're too much, or, I mean, normal stressed out parent responses to things that live in our subconscious. And yeah, I think going there and finding our inner child and doing what she wanted, I think is like next level healing for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
For
and I
sure.
think that's beautiful. You found her. I'm so glad.
Yeah, so yeah, it's inner child work is so important. And again, this is such a
Yes.
huge part of my message, and what my concept was with the chapter is that when you remove alcohol, it's such a huge accelerator for growth and healing, because you can
Mm,
really get into your subconscious. You can really get more into like even like the awareness and the memories. Like I've had memories come up that I like didn't remember. Like you're pretty much numb, like even as a social drinker. Like if you're social drinking a lot, like you're kind of on a bit of an autopilot, like numbing schedule, really, aren't you? And I think I used to have a coach when I was kind of in that phase of going in and out of the inner work and the drinking and stuff. And if they coached me on like a Monday, Tuesday, after I had had a big night on the weekend, like my ego was so strong that I wasn't able to get into like the layers and peel back the layers. And that's what you need
mm.
to be able to do, right? So again, a massive benefit on the whole journey is being able to remove it and go in deeper and connect. Yeah, connect and give the love that you needed to your inner child. And I agree with the parent thing. Like they do the best that they can with the tools that they have, right? But it's just very fascinating.
Absolutely.
It's fascinating when you start to realize like the impact, quite like how profound the impact has been, for sure.
Absolutely. I think that you said that beautifully. I love the way you word things. I feel like I could listen to you forever. And I love listening to you.
I feel
So,
the same. You have such
oh,
beautiful energy, Bianca. Like you are, it's credit to you because you're making me feel safe enough to be able to express everything. And that's
mm,
a really important thing and a really important gift to have, particularly with the work that you're doing for your clients as well, to be able to make them feel safe to express everything.
Yes, yes. I think you might have a similar story. I don't know your story quite yet on this end of like I kind of naturally was always a listener and a hand and an ear to everyone around me, and I felt like a healer always. Except when I was drunk, by the way. Let me just throw that out there. Not when I was drinking, but like as a child growing up, like I just remember, and maybe that's the people pleaser naturally in me, but like I just always heard, like, I feel so comfortable around you. I can tell you anything. I mean, I've been this way, um, which I think is due to the parts of me that weren't parented as a kid. So, like, there's benefits, right, to some of the things that we experienced growing up that might seem, or it is trauma, but also the trauma gives you gifts and
Absolutely.
you get to work through it and become, use your superpowers from that experience and bring it out into the world and be there for people in a way that will resonate with some and won't with others, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
um, so I appreciate, and when we were talking about our parents not being perfect, they did the best they could. um, I've come to realize a lot lately because I've done so much work around parenting my parents,
Yeah.
um, and my inner child, that I am who I am and I chose this path for a reason. And now I get to be the empathetic, listen well, will listen to all of it and make people feel comfortable. And that's, to me, is like a blessing and a gift that
Yeah.
you can't get without that experience. So I thank you for noticing and seeing me.
Yeah. No, my pleasure. And yeah, beautiful wording on all of that. And so, so, so true. And I think, yeah, I think, it's definitely when we talk about the feminine, like our primary need of all is to feel safe.
Yeah.
And, naturally that comes up in terms of being held and feeling safe with the masculine. But I think also like in everything that we do. And I think ha- enabling people to feel safe when you're coaching them is just, yeah, definitely such a gift and so 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 important. And yeah, I think because of the work that I've done on myself, like I've learned it that way, and then I'm able to do it on my clients too. But I think I
Mm,
agree, like there was a similarity there. I definitely was able, I always had like such a wide range of different like friends. So like from all completely different backgrounds and
mm.
just, yeah, I was kind of, I don't want to say a chameleon because I think that, it's that's suggesting that I wasn't being who I truly was. But I think I've always been able to kind of like interact with all different types of people and loved that as well. Like I've always loved like a real like variety of characters and people. But obviously I've just always been drawn to good people too, right? But I have,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm very open, and I feel like that's the way with you too, and therefore people
Hmm.
share. Like, and I think we touched on it earlier with you being so in your power and expressing yourself and being fully seen on your Instagram. Like you're giving other people permission to step into their own power and to shine their lights too. And that's a big part of the world we're in now, right? Isn't it? Especially, in this age of light, age of consciousness, like us all shining our own lights really, really does help other people to step into the light as well. So I feel like it's all connected.
Yes. And you, I want to praise you as well. You give such good advice. You have such good insight. You word it in ways that connect, that I like, it gives ahas to me. And like, it's like, that's kind of what I'm looking for, is like every, like I try to learn something new all the time about like how to grow and how to get better. And you have so much wisdom on the sober chapter. And I want to say you also give me such inspiration and welcoming, warming energy. Even, yes, talking to you, of course. Like this, you're so easy to talk to from the second we answered. And but it also shines through your social media as well.
Thank
That
you.
like you're such a loving energy, like so much love and fully authentic, and that's also giving all of us permission to also approach our life with so much passion, and I see how it's inspiring me. So wanting to inspire others the way you do me. So I appreciate your path, and I'm grateful. It's divine. It is not an accident that I was in the same cohort as you, even if we did not actually talk in any of the cohorts. I found you through another friend in the cohort, and I'm just soul deeply grateful.
Oh, thank you, Bianca.
Hmm.
You. Again, I got goosebumps a couple of times then. So gorgeous. Yeah, I'm so grateful. Like you are, I remember seeing you actually a couple of times you spoke, didn't you? Like in the group
Oh,
setting, like
yes.
calls, and I was just like, oh my gosh, you have such a light, like such a light. You glow, and yeah, it's really, really beautiful. So I'm so grateful that you reached out to me, to be honest. And yeah, it's just funny, isn't it, how these things just all happen so divinely, like you say. And I've no doubt we'll stay connected for sure. Like, definitely.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I hope we do. And I will actively be like, how are you? I want to stay in touch 100%. And I want to go to your retreats if whenever you have one. I want to be connected. If you ever do online, virtual, please send it my way. And I will share with my followers as well,
Thank
all your information. And but before we get off, I have one more question. I wanted to, if someone is sober, wouldn't call themselves sober curious, but they're watching this and they're like, I like the frequency or the energy of what they are talking about, that sober chapter, that sober experience they're going through. What would you tell someone who's hesitant or scared because of society norms? Um, yeah, how would you, I guess, help them find the light to make that decision for themselves?
thank you.
I
That's
hope
a
I said
great,
that right.
yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, look, if anyone is listening and resonating, just know that that's your intuition, your higher self guiding you. I believe there's no coincidences in any of this. And I believe that, being alcohol free really is linked to that spiritual awakening as well. And just really listen to your intuition, your heart, and just, yeah, just take the steps. Like take the steps. Just take a little break, just trial it. If you are already kind of feeling that you want to do it, then there's so much support out there for people that are just sober curious or social drinkers or whatever it might be. There's a huge rise now in the sober curious movement. Like, there really is a shift. Again, I don't think there's any coincidence that there's a shift as we're in this like raising consciousness era, that naturally alcohol that lowers that is also being kind of taken away. So you will find your people, you will attract in like-minded souls. Like I absolutely guarantee you of that. Like if you're worried and the people that if you're worried about the people around you disapproving or what they will say, like I promise you those that love you, that truly love you, that are meant to be on your path will support you, and you'll actually be surprised at the ripple effects and the amount that you will inspire people around you as well.
Mm.
And it is a power move. It really is a power move. So it's realizing that it's that mindset shift. And then I would say, if you're feeling like you want to try it, start listening to sober curious podcasts, sober podcasts, and just reading some of the books as well. Like there's lots of books out there that can help. My business coach has one called Euphoric, which is really relatable to a lot of people. I have my podcast, obviously the Sober Chapters podcast, which is all about this spiritual curiosity link with sober curiosity. So just go for it and immerse yourself. But I promise you, if you've got that intuition or that nudge, it's happening for a reason and it will lead to beautiful things. And I think Bianca and I are both a testament to that, right? So, yeah.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness, what a gorgeously said. I can second what you said in my own, light. It started showing up and it was all not accidental. It was on purpose that it was there in my vision, in my world, which led me to, I would say, the best part of my life, healthiest, clearest in my mind. Mind you, I still have my days, as we always will.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I feel like I can't even put into words the clarity and the freedom and I almost have this like a clean slate every day.
Mm,
It's not, I think I mentioned earlier, I felt so dirty and nasty. And that's my journey. And I'm just so grateful that we are both in this together and that I get to be sober. I mean, I feel like I get to, it's my choice. And so I find that to be liberating.
yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Beautifully said. It's a choice and it's a gift. It's an absolute gift for sure.
It's totally a gift.
Mm-hmm.
Totally
Yeah.
a gift. And this has me so, my cup is filled, and I'm so grateful that you had the time and energy and space for me in my podcast today. And Um, I loved everything about our conversation, and I wish I could go longer. Honestly, I'm like, wait, I have more questions, so we're gonna have to do this again. It
Viewers again. There's so many things we didn't cover, but I've also loved it. And as we know, everything we were meant to cover was covered.
was
It's
meant,
perfect. Yeah, absolutely. I've
but
loved it. I feel great. It's the start of my day here in Australia, and yeah, I have a little skip in my step this morning now.
yes, it was definitely a spruce of energy. I know for me it's evening, but it is like it's given me like a boost, and I want to say thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. Lovely. Thank you for having me.
All right, Didi, I am going to talk to you soon, and I can't wait to connect again. And I will post how you can follow and find her in the show notes. So thank you again, and I'll see you on the next one.
Amazing. Thank you. Bye.
Like me, I'ma come up on